Hello, and welcome to the podcast, Your Biz Story. This is Tom Szabo, your host. Your Biz Story examines small business in Northeast Ohio. You'll meet the owner, learn about the business products and services offered, how the business got started, the challenges a business owner faces, and many other aspects of running a small business. Whether you're a consumer, business owner, or have thought about opening a business, you'll thoroughly enjoy today's podcast. Hello, and welcome to the podcast, Your Biz Story. This is where we talk with Northeast Ohio business owners, and we learn about their products and services, how they either acquired or started the business, and then some anecdotal stories, because something always comes up and out that is kind of cute and humorous. This is your host, Tom Szabo, and I'm going to say hello to Sean, our producer over there. And sometimes he'll put his hand up and wave or motion something, and
Okay.
he might do something like that. Otherwise, he's pretty harmless and pretty quiet. This episode is produced at the Madison Public Library in beautiful and historic Madison, Ohio. Our guests today are Beth and Tony Debevc. And if you know them or if you don't, they are the energy, if you will, behind Debonne Vinyards in Madison. And I always wondered, because I think your parents are either Slovenian
Yes,
or
correct.
they're Slovenian.
Both are Slovenian,
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
But Debonne always rang French to me.
It
and
is,
It means of good.
Correct. And our name Debevc always got butchered in school, wherever we went.
Yeah.
And so we were looking at a number of names to call the business. Of course, there was no wineries in the area that were active at the time.
Yeah.
Pre-Prohibition wineries were around. Cohodes Winery was the last of the pre-Prohibition
Okay.
wineries. And so in 1970 and 71, when we were conceiving this idea, we had Heritage Vineyards, all kinds of
All
names.
kinds of ideas. Yeah.
And so my sister took French, and my grandfather's, the original kind of lineage came from France and moved to Austria, which Slovenia is part of Austria at the time.
Yep.
Okay. A part of the Hungarian-Austrian Empire. And so it was a state of Slovenia. And so we were looking at this French thing, and again, French wines were like 60-some% of the sales in the United States at the time.
Yes.
So let's fish where the fish are, and that's people buying French wine. So let's call this with a French name. We decided to build a building that I preferred was a chalet type of building, construction-wise, and we started working around that. And then we said, "Geez, chalet house," and then Debevc, what kind of Bonnet? That's of goodness. So, geez, House of Good Vineyards, Chalet Debonne.
There you go.
Vineyards,
There
it's
you
House
go.
of Good Vineyards. So that's what stuck.
So Beth, you're originally from Madison, but you moved to Painesville when you were about 10. So you graduated from Harvey High School.
Yep.
Afterwards, we may talk about some of my cousins that you may know. Tony graduated from Madison in 65.
Yes.
And then you graduated from the Ohio State,
correct,
1969, with a BS, I assume, a
Bachelor
BS
of
Science
yeah.
in pomology.
Yeah.
I read that and I thought,
It sounds like
Pomology.
cosmetology in a way,
it's like,
doesn't it?
what the heck? Well, come to find out, pomology is the study of the growth of fruit.
Correct.
Then it's like, okay, this makes sense. Now I kind of understand it.
Yeah, at the time they didn't have a viticulture or enology program at Ohio State University, and in the Department of Horticulture, which pomology was one of the specialties, that was the only degree. So that included apples and peaches and pears and grapes.
Yeah. Okay. And then both of you are active in the business, and we'll talk. I want to talk a little bit about that also. 6 days a week, huh?
Me,
Yeah.
You?
I won't do Sundays.
Well,
I don't blame
But
you.
I shouldn't say that. If we have an event,
Yeah.
Jazz Fest,
Yeah.
we
Then
do
you-
a
yeah.
woof event,
Yeah.
then
Well, we live the business, so we're there 7 days a week if needed, but
Yeah.
no days that week if we're on break, so to speak.
Okay. And Beth, you handle things like the payroll, billing,
Yes.
greeting, waiting on guests. And Tony, you deal more with the operational side,
Correct. Yeah.
rolling up the shirt sleeves, driving the tow motor,
Whatever.
telling people what to do,
Cleaning the septic tank.
telling people what not to do, cleaning the septic tank. Absolutely. You've been married for 50 years, so congratulations.
Yep, July.
That's great. 2 children, Tony and Mandy. And hobbies. This is always the fun part. You showed your dad, didn't you? He wouldn't let you buy a car.
No, he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't.
So
I couldn't
you
buy a car.
went and you got your pilot's license.
I spent my money on the pilot's license instead of buying a car, yes.
And how did Dad respond to that?
Oh, he thought that was a great idea, but I didn't, because I still wanted to buy a car. I kind of did it out of spite, to be honest with you. I was a kind of a aviation enthusiast. I had home-built aircraft, model airplanes, and Sky King was one of my heroes,
Yes.
and so the Sky King shows and so forth, and so I always thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And in Ohio State they had this great aviation program, and it was very inexpensive. It was part of your curriculum.
Oh,
Yeah, so
that's good.
I actually got an hour of credit for taking ground school, and a pilot's license back then was $495 to get your pilot's license.
Wow.
Wow. I mean that's not even it's one.
I know. I've looked into it.
5% of what it costs today.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was
So so you've got 2 antique aircraft.
a couple antique aircraft.
Okay,
yes,
and
yeah.
then a Beach Baron.
Correct. Yeah.
That's your vacation plane, right?
Business plane, I call it.
Okay.
Wherever
All
we
right.
go.
Well,
All
we
you gotta
do.
do is
We
pop
use it.
in.
We use it. We use it a lot to travel to see things and meetings and conferences. I'll take our staff people to a
Sure.
big conference here. This.
How many will it seat?
It seats 4.
With the pilots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
including the
Okay.
pilot, yeah.
And Beth is a certified scuba diver, and you have been all over the world and underwater.
Underwater, yeah. I haven't dove in a long time. The last time we were in we were in Long Island in the Bahamas. And it was really, really ugly weather. And the guy insisted we go out anyway. And when I came back to the boat, crawled up next to the prop with a tank on, I said, I ain't going back. And we just haven't had the opportunity. I
We
think.
haven't. No. We've been traveling more in the United States and
Yeah.
and not going out of country.
I mean, I do miss it, but I can always go back, just
Of
have
course.
water
Yep.
checked out. and
Absolutely.
do it again.
Absolutely. All right. So tell us what your business is. We know it's Chalet Debonne, and winery, but there's got to be more to it than that. Tell us what it is.
Well, our family was in the farming business, and my grandfather had a general farm on Doty Road right there at the where the winery is, and then my father did the same thing, but couldn't afford to raise a family just on a general farm anymore in the 40s and 50s and 60s. So he worked construction, general labor, supplementing the farm and working all kinds of hours. My dad works actual 7 days a week every day.
Yeah.
And very few vacations. And so our goal was, at least mine was, to come back to the farm and make it profitable. And so when I was at Ohio State, there were some opportunities that were about roadside markets primarily. And we visited a lot of roadside market as part of the pomology program, seeing fruits and vegetable operations. And I thought, geez, boy, these guys are making money. The guy that we went to that was a production guy selling to a large, buyer who was driving around in a beat up old car. I went to the farm market guys, and here the guy's got a brand new Cadillac, brand new building, nice house, the whole bit, and beautiful business. I said, well, whoa. This guy's over here is killing himself and is not making any money, but this guy's got this retail location. That looks fairly lucrative. Well, at that same time in the late 60s is when the new era of wineries in the United States kicked off. The Robert Mondavi era,
Yeah.
Joe Heinz, all these people that were getting into the industry and showing some of the older wineries that were there, the Gallows and so forth, that, hey, the new method of making wine, the new approach to selling directly to the consumer, marketing as this new kind of style of wine. it was showing a lot of promise. And Ohio State had just hired a couple people to look into this for Ohio. Jim Glander was an enologist that came to Ohio to, this is a winemaker, state winemaker, under Ohio State's professor program. And Dr. Garth Cahoon on the viticulture side.
Okay.
He came from Utah in the apple business and came and started promoting growing grapes, different cultivars, different varieties of grapes, and new methods of raising those grapes. And then Jim on the other side was using the experimental grapes that they were playing with to make wine, to see if they could make good quality wine here in Ohio that would be competitive on a national basis. I happen to be the only kid that went to Ohio State in 20 some years from a farm
Background.
winery or grape growing background, and they just grabbed a hold of me and said, "Geez, you ought to look at this." And I'm well, I wasn't really that interested. I wanted to go flying. I had gotten into this flying thing, and I was going to go into the Air Force, and I was already signed up for ROTC for the Army. I was going to switch to the Air Force. I wanted to become a pilot. And my professors actually from the horticulture department says, wait a minute. There's a zillion people coming out of this Vietnam War that are pilots. That job opportunity is going to be flooded. You really need to look at this wine business thing. You're really set up for it. You got your dad that's interested in maybe doing this. And you've got grapes already, the knowledge, the equipment, the land. You should look at this. I went into the military and had a lot of time to think, of course.
Yeah.
In the first year in the military, I said, well, what am I going to do after this little stint in the military? And that's when I decided, I approached my parents. I said, well, would you be willing to maybe start a winery? My mother was really the one that was behind it.
Is that right?
Yeah, she really always wanted to have a business. I remember when I was kids, she wanted to start a dude ranch to help my dad, put in cabins and get people to, she wanted to run a business. She really did. She had a very good business mind and well organized. And my dad was a worker bee, a great personality, just worked 7 days a week, no matter what. He'd be 108 years old today, and if he was alive, he'd still be working. He liked to do things and accomplish things. So that was a good combination. And so we said, let's try this thing. To be very honest, Madison wasn't really supportive. They tried to shut us down,
Oh, really?
Well, we were building a business in an agriculturally zoned area. And we started construction because the Farm Bureau in Ohio State said, well, you're allowed to do that by law. It's a farm operation, no different than a dairy or chicken farm or any other roadside market. You're a roadside market. And you're allowed to have a roadside market in an agricultural area and run a retail business. And they looked into it for us, and we contested it and fought them, and they tried to shut us down a couple times between them and the health department, and we came out victorious. We had a couple people here in Madison, named Gary Bucky, was a big supporter of ours, a trustee from way back, and a couple of the other ones weren't, and we forged forward. And of course, if you knew my mother, she was tough. And no is not an answer she liked.
Yeah, I didn't know your mother. I had met her a couple of times, and she's
a formidable adversary.
Yes,
and she was a woman that was coming up at a time when a lot of women didn't have those positions. And if she was today, she'd be a CEO of a major corporation. I mean, that's just the way it was. And so she was very convincing, and she did her research and so forth. And anyhow, it happened. So in spite of whatever, we forged forward. So.
Well, I think somewhere I read you started with 42, 46 acres.
Well,
and
actually,
now you're up to
About
70.
42 when the winery.
when the winery was really going, my parents had about 22 acres or so when I was in college, and then as soon as we decided to do this, we started expanding our vineyards, knowing that we needed new varieties, because back then the king was Concord, of course, and Niagara for grape juice. That was the grape juice industry was so big in the war effort, and after that in the 50s and 60s, and then by the 70s things were really kind of getting shaky from a profit point of view. The margins were so tight, and so we decided to expand pretty quickly into new things.
You mentioned starting to expand, because you guys don't just grow grapes and make wine. You got a boatload of other stuff going on.
Well, today,
Tell us about that.
well, today, for example, we supply a lot of other smaller operations with product, bulk product, juice, grapes, wine, finished product. So we do a lot of other things besides just make wine for Debonne. And of course, since 2005, we've expanded from 2005 to current to 3 other operations. And
What are those?
well, we started in 2005. We bought Grand River Winery and call it Grand River Cellars now.
Okay.
One of our employees, Cindy Limburg, is the president there. She's a partner in it. And then in 2000, well, and actually just before that, my vineyard manager, he started South River Vineyards on his own. His own family started that.
Okay.
But we support it, of course.
Sure.
We work collaboratively together on raising grapes, and we exchange a lot of things. And then in 19, we decided to start a whole new venue from ground up, and that was Cast 307. And we have, again, one of our employees is involved with that. Eric Beatty is involved with that operation. And then just this year, in 2025, we opened up in September Corkscrew Tap House. That's our new operation.
Now, what is that?
Well, Corkscrew is a whole different concept. The Grand River does a lot of food, kitchen, table service. Cast 307 is more tasting, just setting of a relaxing setting of tasting some really experimental kind of wines. So it was
Okay.
a winery that we tried things on. And one of the things we tried there was tap wines. That was one of our big experiments there. We have 6 wines that we make and put in kegs and sell it like on a tap, like beer.
You can fill the bottle.
You
take
can
it
fill
home.
bottles to take it home like a growler,
Yeah.
like a growler beer or growler wine. And we weren't really sure how the wine would hold up, and how it would,
Yeah.
the flavors and so forth. We've had really good results, and so we decided that we've got a kind of a food place, a high-end tasting place, a production facility, the original facility, and 3 of our employees were interested in staying with our company. And I said, "Hey, listen, why don't you come in and be a partner in this new operation?" And we started talking about what are we going to do. Well, let's go after the younger crowd, something different. And so we decided to buy a tap wall, one of these electronic tap walls, and we have actually 30 taps there.
Wow.
Which includes some of our beer, because my son runs a brewery, a Double Wing Brewing. We have some guest people, guest local breweries that we serve their
We had
wine.
Cloven Hoof and
Yeah, and
Great Lakes.
Dark Room.
Dark
there,
Room,
yeah,
were theirs.
and we have, of course, our other wineries too that will participate in it. So we have a broad selection of a number of different products there, all on tap.
Wow.
And so we designed it kind of high tech in that we have the QR codes for ordering and paying and all this other stuff, or direct service.
Yeah.
you can still, yeah.
Yeah, you can
I
still
think
buy
in the
cash and
beginning,
order
some
across
people
the
were
table.
Intimidated.
Yeah.
Go to the wall. Oh my God, I don't know what to do. And then you get a little, like a watch band.
Okay.
You just put it up, push the button. You want 2 ounces or you want 6 ounces.
Yeah. So we
So you can get a
designed.
sample.
It's kind
Yeah.
of a self-service. A lot of younger people don't
And
want
our
to
employees
deal.
will help.
Yeah.
They don't want to deal with a lot of this community. They just want
Yep.
to do it on their phone. And so
Yeah.
we decided to go that route. And then because we bought the old Deer Sleep operation, and we were there in town where you had sewer, water, and gas, which we don't have at other operations. So we put in a restaurant. So we have a real nice kitchen and so forth for food.
Well, you do food at
Yeah, but very limited.
It's more sandwiches.
Yeah,
soups.
sandwich,
Yeah.
soups and sandwiches,
Okay.
very
Where
light.
Cindy does full meals at Grand River.
Yeah.
And we're doing that at
But
at
this,
Corkscrew.
yeah, it's really with natural gas and septic and city water and
makes a big difference.
yeah, we have fire suppression. It's a real commercial operation, and so that we'll see how that works. That's it's not even 6 months into it, so
Good.
that's kind of our new adventure. Why we did it at this age, I'm not sure, but we did.
Yeah. Even when we started Cask, we had been at Niagara on the Lake, and we're driving home. Been the Ice Wine Festival in January. He goes, I think we should have an operation right there at 528. Be the first one off the freeway. We'll open early, and we'll just make it really different, where they can just taste, and then they can get back on the freeway and go. And I'm like, huh? Really? And then it was like, okay, what are we going to call it? What are we going to call it? Well, then we bought the property on 307 because originally we thought maybe we'd be on 528. But this farm came available, and so we decided to go with the cask 307. Yeah.
So that's
It's,
just,
it's amazing.
well, I think it's real important when you're in business. First off, you got to decide what your mousetrap is. Okay. And your mousetrap probably should be maybe something a little more enticing than everybody else's mousetrap. So you get more mice than the other guy.
Yeah.
Number one. So you have to have something a little bit unique and something that's going to have a future in it. And then you got to have a passion about taking care of that mousetrap
Yeah.
every day and checking it every day and
Yeah.
resetting it every day and repositioning it every day. And if you don't, it gets real stale real quick and you start to fall backwards. You know, business philosophy is either you move forward or you move back.
Yeah.
There is no standing still.
No
you know.
standing still.
There never
Exactly.
is in any business. And so even though we move forward and maybe that might not be successful, we may have to just move to the right a little bit and then move forward again. And,
Exactly.
and we did that during COVID. Was a good test. We did very well during COVID because we knew we had an issue coming up and how do we address it. Right now this year we have a real issue we had another bad winter injury situation. We know we had it. It hasn't. The buds haven't come out yet, but this early spring isn't going to help anything. So we're already making plans and adjustments to avoid a disaster. You just can't sit there. You have to react.
Yeah. That's kind of a good segue into.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
Sorry, somebody.
yeah, I didn't turn it up.
What are some of the challenges that you face routinely or not routinely?
I think the biggest thing has always been finding good staff. The human resource side of it is probably the most difficult from a mental aspect, you know, just trying to resolve that. It seems like every time we have a great staff, everything's working good. You know, somebody gets sick, somebody leaves, somebody steals them. Oh, you got a good staff person. I could use one. Sure they can
Oh,
afford.
they'd love to have Loretta.
Yeah.
Everybody would love to have Loretta.
Well, we have a number of people that are really good there, and those that's probably one of my biggest headaches. Most other things, government can be very difficult to deal with. You're dealing with a huge monopoly.
Really?
Well, it can be stressful, and so that's a couple of things. A lot of the other things are fixable. You know, the pumps go out, the electricity goes off, whatever. All these things, those are repairable. They're fixable. So they're fairly straightforward. We fix something every day. I mean, in all these operations, something's breaking down every day. You know, nothing lasts more than 10 or 15 years in equipment, so you're constantly fixing things. And so those are more of the easier parts. And I think the fun part, I think, is the planning. Looking forward to the future, and being passionate about what you're going to do, and you're going to be aggressive. Even I'm 78 years old now, but I still have some of that passion to try to do something like what's our next plan?
Yeah. Well,
my next plan is not to move to a retirement home.
I don't blame.
I know that.
I don't blame you. Beth, from your standpoint or from your position within the organization, what are some of the challenges that you face?
I'm going to say employees also. We have mainly girls. You ever work with all girls? And they're all wonderful, and they know they're wonderful. And that sometimes can be an issue. I don't get involved too much with their personality issues unless they really came to me. But I figured, let them figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, if you get an employee, and we've had this happen, I don't dump garbage. What do you mean dump the garbage? Well, you're going to dump the garbage, and you may have to clean that toilet because it's a mess right now. And you won't do that? Well, I don't have to let her go. The girls will get on her. I think that's the biggest.
Well, you create kind of an atmosphere in a business, and so you either fit into that team kind of concept, because we're very team orientated, or the team gets rid of you.
And
very seldom do we have to ever let somebody go.
No.
They usually leave on their own because they can't stand the other people that have been picking on them.
And one thing I've noticed You know, I have a lot of friends that still live in the area from high school and stuff, and unfortunately we don't see him because we're in this aviation thing. So he's got his flying buddies. So we have a tendency to do more of that. But we also do a lot with the employees. I mean, it's not
Okay.
unusual for us to
Yeah,
say,
we
let's
frat-
go to
we
the Manor
fraternize
Tuesday
too
night
much.
for wing night.
Okay.
And all of us will go. Well, you have your wings, you have your food, and we go home, and the next day we might laugh about,
Sure.
somebody we saw or whatever. But they truly become your friend too, and you don't want to be too close, just in case, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I mean, I would do anything for any of them. I mean, there's been times when Michelle lives in Chardon, and the weather's been so ugly, I keep saying, I got 3 bedrooms. Spend the night. I don't care if you didn't bring a toothbrush. You can
Yeah.
spend the night and worry about that in the morning.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe that's petty to some people, but not when you're a single mom and you have to drive
Right.
all the way back to Chardon in a blizzard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we do go to the other wineries together, which is kind of fun.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
It seems like the wineries in the area that are close to you, that you folks all seem to have a tight knit group.
Well, we're highly competitive within the league, so to speak. And if the league isn't successful, then then nobody's successful as an individual team. And so to say that we don't compete and try to steal each other's business, but no different than the Indians are trying to beat the New York Yankees. But if the Yankees come to town, they fill the stadium. So we want to make sure that they still come to town, because whether we win or lose, the stadium is full.
That's right.
And so I think that's kind of the concept. And when something happens where somebody needs help, they need bottles or corks or whatever, or a piece of equipment. This last year, we had trouble. We had a major piece of equipment break down our must pump, and we couldn't find one anywhere. And I called up Nick Ferrandi. I said, Nick, you wouldn't happen to have an extra must pump? He said, yeah, we got one. Why, you need one? He just lent me his must pump. It was very, we would all do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just part of the of this community. So, and if you get a bad apple in that group, they get kind of shoved aside. No, I don't have a must pump. Oh, well, nobody's got one? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And we do have the group, the wine growers of the Grand River Valley. Right now we're promoting this Ice Wine Festival.
Yeah.
Well, Laurenti is not a member, but that's fine because he's got a beautiful place
Yeah.
and he still does ice wine. So if they're going to go there, they're certainly going to go down the road to Grand River or Debonne.
Yeah.
It's never been an issue. I mean, and even I think Kasichik's, doesn't he and Em are doing a bubbly thing? Well, we do a bubbly, but we're not part of their
Yeah.
little group.
Yeah.
They're still
So yeah, so they have.
it works out fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's no, you don't say, you don't ever complain about anybody because you don't want to put that, stab somebody in the back.
Yeah.
It just hurts everybody.
Exactly.
The key to this whole thing is to make the pie bigger.
Yeah.
Not too much bigger.
If there, no, well, the pie can get bigger. It's the people. We have more people eating some of the pie, so that can be a little bit of an issue. So you're trying to grow the pie, so to speak.
So one of the things I wanted to touch on is that usually business owners, there's the owner as opposed to the owners and being husband and wife. How have you lived through and with that
Don't
issue?
talk shop at home.
Yeah, we do a little bit.
A little bit. Not like we do at the winery.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how it works for everybody else, but
And because it's been working for 50 years for you two.
well, you got to have the same philosophy. I don't care whether it's business, marriage, whatever. It's really important to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but the most important thing is when to shut the heck up. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Is knowing when that you said enough.
Kind of went over the top.
You kind of just shut up and move on.
And you probably learned early on, yes, dear.
Yeah, there's no question. There's no question about it. I've been involved with a lot of boards and so forth, and I was told by a very smart guy one time many years ago. He said, if you come up with an idea, Tony, that you think's really good, present it with a white paper, make sure everybody kind of understands it. And if it doesn't go over, okay, that's fine. Regroup, maybe change a few things, present it a second time and see what happens. After that, never present it again. Do it once, do it twice.
And then that's it.
That's it. Don't make a fool out of yourself.
Okay. So, how easy is it for you guys to kind of get away and
It's a lot
Easier
easier
now.
now.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
we
mean,
got-
we really have some key employees.
Yeah, we have some
that-
key employees that are involved, and the participation of the employees in the other businesses from a actual financial side, side of it is I think real important. That's one of the things we, unfortunately or unfortunately, we don't have any grandkids, and so the business is kind of being run by some really long-term key employees, and when we're gone, they can do whatever they want with it and so forth.
Well, and he's always got his phone. So if there's a question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that makes a huge difference on travel, especially with me with the airplane. I can go and I can come back very quickly. So if I'm going to go somewhere to Tennessee or whatever, I can be back in a couple hours. And if something really happens, and we've had that happen before. I was in Europe one time and we had a situation, but my mother died when we were in South America one time, and he just got in an airplane, came home. I mean, but we had communications and DocuSign and everything else you can do. So the ability to communicate by email and text and phone is a huge advantage today over what it was 15 years ago, certainly.
so does that mean, or does that not mean, that if you need to talk to Beth, do you email her or text her? Or,
No.
No, Beth has a phone for one reason. That's to make calls. That's not to answer. That's only to make calls.
You have to, I don't like to have my phone up front where there's customers, because I'm not going to talk to you anyway.
Yeah.
You know I'm at the winery, 466-3485. Call me there. Now, if I'm in the office, I'll have it.
Yeah.
That's fine, but not in the business. I think that's very unprofessional. Unless it was an emergency. Okay,
Sure.
my sister's really sick, or my brother's going to be at the ER, whatever. That's different. Then I would keep it, but I do use my phone for phone calls. It's kind of a joke, but
It's true.
It is true.
well, it sounds like it goes very smooth between the two of you.
Yeah.
I'm sure, like any other married couple, there are some things that arise.
It's difficult that, when you get home, we do talk business a little bit about what's going on and so forth.
Maybe what's going on, but
But
not,
a lot of it has to do with planning, or what do you think, and where do you want to go, or I guess
Yeah.
what our future plans are. I don't know. We just we communicate.
well,
pretty well.
fortunately, he always had this aviation thing. I really never had a hobby. I mean, we did the scuba dive
Yeah.
thing. I just kind of wanted to go wherever we go, with girlfriends or whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, you got a good idea? Let's go skydiving. Okay, get in the car and we go.
Yeah. So
With the aviation thing, if I didn't like it,
You'd be in trouble.
I would.
that would be a problem.
It'd be a problem. I'd be home.
I tell the story all the time. I had a real good friend of mine from college that had a boat. I had a boat when I was in college at one time, a small little boat, but then he got this really nice ski boat and everything, and we used to do a lot of skiing, and we used to take girls out on the boats, and this before I met Beth when I was in college and so forth, and right after, and so we would go on trips and just weekend stuff all the time, and then he dated this girl and took her out on the boat, weekends, the whole bit, got engaged on the boat, doing all kinds of stuff, first whatever, and got married, and soon after they got married, she hated the boat. And it wasn't long after that she wouldn't go on the boat anymore, and it became a real issue, to be honest with you. And the marriage didn't last, and struggled for a number of years. But finally, the boat kind of did it in, and it was disappointing. And that she, why did she hate the boat so bad? She knew this guy loved the boat, and that was part of what he
Yeah.
loved to do, and it created a real atmosphere.
I'll
With
bet.
Beth and I, she'll go, and we've flown in all kinds of weather. We fly in a lot of crappy weather and go places.
I mean,
We've been everywhere. We've been
It's
real.
no different
We've been
than-
real fortunate
yeah.
because
Yeah.
our business has been successful. We got in it at the right time. I think timing is important in business, and we decided that this was going to be our life, our lifestyle. It's kind of why we're there a lot. We participate not only with, our employees once in a while, but probably 80% of our friends or more are people that we know from
People
the
that
winery.
we met at the winery.
Yeah, these are people that like wine. They like, good food. They like to travel. In case they like to fly or scuba dive or whatever. We've associated with people
Sure.
of that personality. Okay, we're relatively conservative people. Business people generally are relatively conservative. We look at facts and common sense and all these other things.
Yep.
We try to keep emotion out of our decisions. Let's keep this very, matter of fact. I think, when you start to get too emotional, it doesn't necessarily make good decisions.
Doesn't make good business sense.
Yeah, it does
exactly.
make it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Well, I want to thank the two of you
Sure.
for coming. It's been a pleasure, and some of what you're talking about I'm aware of, but other things, yeah, it was good to learn more about the two of you.
People,
So I
we
appreciate it.
just we had a bus tour a week ago Saturday. We just had another one. The same fella brought another group, and he always says, "Oh, John will say, oh, Beth, just tell him about you and about the winery." So you wonder what you want to tell them. So I specifically, I like to tell them that you're in Lake County, because they all think they're in Geneva, for some reason.
Right.
I don't know why. And we're the smallest county in the state of Ohio, and they were like, "Whoa, what do you mean?" And then when I talk a little bit about how we started the business, and that if you look out the window right now, those tables there, we used to be a hayfield. The front had a little teeny front porch, and they end up staring at you like, "Give me more,
Yeah.
give me more." Fortunately, they are interested.
Yeah.
There's nobody that walks away that goes, "Oh, she's just giving me a line of balls."
Well, a lot's happened in the last 53 years.
Yeah, there's plenty to tell.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, this is our 54th year going to be in business, and so fortunately, the biggest thing that we have our health. So I mean,
Boy, isn't that something?
yeah, well, without that, you don't have anything. So, and we were raised by parents that had a good work ethic.
Yep.
Okay, and pretty structural. I think that was important. And I think living by a good solid foundation of religion and honesty and integrity are real important. Those things all add up. And then why we're successful is, I think, a passion. I think if I had the passion to be in a construction business, I think I'd be successful there. If I was selling boats or cars, if that was my
Yeah.
passion. But I also know that if you're competing against someone else that has a passion in that industry, you better have it too.
Yeah.
Because I don't care how much money you have and how hard you work. He's got that passion. He loves to show up there every day, no matter what time in the middle of the night. I mean, just
Yeah.
Thursday night, I was showing up at the winery at 2 o'clock in the morning because the alarm went off. I said, "Oh my God, what am I doing?" I mean, that's part of, somebody's got to do it.
Exactly.
And so you have to have that passion. If you don't have the passion, get out of that business. Don't work for that employer. Go to somebody else so that you can click. Find something that's going to do it. I've let people go in the past, and one of the things I said, I'm going to do you a favor. It's just not working out here.
Yeah.
And it's not working for you, or it's not working for me. And I'm going to do you a favor to make you go somewhere else, because I think you have a lot of opportunity to do something that maybe you can find that's your passion. It isn't going to be here.
And
So time to move.
enjoy your life a little bit.
And I've had people come back, and say thank you. I found my place.
Yeah.
I'm happy where I'm at. I already started my own business. I learned from you what to do. I've had a lot of that over the many years. And so if you don't have that passion about where you go, quit. Go
And
somewhere else.
That says something about you, and probably both of you, when people will come back and thank you
We've had
like
a lot,
that.
We've had a lot of kids that work
Yeah.
for us over the many, many years. We've been very fortunate that way. And some very successful kids that have done very, very well. So,
Good.
yeah.
Good. Well, again, I want to thank you too for coming
Sure.
out.
Yeah.
If you want to learn more about Chalet Debonne, you can go to debonne.com, where you'll find everything that's going on at the winery. They're located at 7840 Dottie Road in Madison. Their phone number there is 440-466-3485. I want to invite everybody out there that's listening, all two of you, stop out at the winery and say hello to both Beth and Tony. If you want to hear more episodes from your biz story, I invite you to go to tom-sabo.com/podcasts, where you can see what we have on the shelf. We're also streaming and available through services like Spotify, Pandora, Amazon, Apple, and those. If we're not on your favorite platform, get in touch with me so we know what that is, and we'll take care of it. Again, Beth and Tony, thanks. Check them out at debonne.com. Special thanks to Madison Public Library for bringing us into their studio. You can learn more about them at madison-library.info. Alrighty. So check us out, stay tuned, and tune in. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.